Hey everyone, Ryan Young, Kama Jiu-Jitsu. Hope you're doing well. So as many of you know, especially our judo friends, we have Dean Salehian here, Sensei Dean, and he runs our judo program. And we started the judo program when?
It was November of last year, so now we're toward the end of November of this year, so we've been a little bit over a year. We started with just doing adults at our previous location. But when we moved here in, when was it, June?
June 1st.
We started a kids program as well. So we do judo for the adults Monday, Wednesday nights. We do judo for the kids Monday. Sometimes we'll pick up extra judo sessions for the kids, especially if we have a tournament coming up. So yeah, we've been in operation for about a year. We registered as a USA Judo Club earlier this year. I got my coach's certification, so I'm a certified USA Judo coach now. And it's just been a fun experience. We've learned a lot over the years. This past year, we're growing. The kids seem to be having fun. The parents seem to like it as well. So yeah, just onward and upward.
As many of you know, or if you haven't figured out yet, I'm actually a fan of judo. The reason why I am is if you go back into the history video I did a while back, and this is my opinion because I wasn't there 100 years ago, the Jiu-Jitsu that we do, traditional Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, was originally judo. Maybe it was still called Jiu-Jitsu back then. Maybe Sensei Kano didn't change the name to judo back then and called it Jiu-Jitsu, which is why it's Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and the Gracies just never changed the name of it. Or maybe it's that what I've heard from Sensei Nori Bunasawa, who wrote the book on Mitsuya Maeda, what he told me was in Brazil, they were still at that level where, and this is conflicting evidence or data, but the Japanese people told him, or the judo or the Kodokan or whatever told him, if you're going to be teaching these Brazilians, don't call it judo, call it jiu-jitsu. Or you're not supposed to teach them, so Carlos called it jiu-jitsu and not judo to not get Maeda in trouble. I don't know. You have to be there to know, right? At any rate, we do Gracie Jiu-Jitsu here. Traditional Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and in particular, we do Rickson's one. Rickson and Dave, and they've all done well against judo guys. It's never necessarily been a problem. There's videos of Rickson training with, is it Hayward Nishioka?
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
That's San Jose guy.
Yeah, San Jose.
Right? And they're just kind of playing around. And then Dave's gone up and trained at many, he used to live in Sacramento. There was no jiu-jitsu up in Sacramento when he'd go and visit his mom when he was like a blue or purple belt. So he said he'd go to a local judo school and train over there. And he said he's never gotten thrown. His throws maybe aren't as nice and pretty as theirs, but it gets down to the ground and it all ends up being the same on the ground. But I've always wanted to try to get us back to not moving the direction that sport BJJ has been, which is just pull guard, right? Forget the throw, because it's 2 points. What do they care? A nice, beautiful throw in sport jiu-jitsu is only 2 points, whereas in judo it's a win, right?
Ippon.
Yeah. When Sensei Dean walked into our doors as a judo black belt and a judo jiu-jitsu white belt, thought just kind of train. And I think probably when we were looking at moving into the new facility back Crossfire, so those of you who look back through our videos and want the big red mats, then our discussion was, hey, what about we put a judo program in, because we really do want our students to learn how to not only fall but also do efficient takedowns, and in a way that blends with our jiu-jitsu. We're trying to enhance our jiu-jitsu without trying to reinvent it or really change it, just kind of put stuff back in that's really been deleted out. So we're doing the judo with a self-defense mindset. But Sensei Dean actually convinced me, hey, why don't we do some tournaments? So we haven't done it for the adults, but we've been doing it for the kids.
Yeah, we've been doing it for the kids. No, but that's right. I think the goal is to make people that are comfortable on their feet and on the ground. Mm-hmm. I think the trend, because people like the sport and the competitive aspect, right? The trend has been judo has become largely a stand-up martial art. That's not to say there's not newaza, and there are judoka that are really good on the ground, but most clubs, the focus is on tournament judo, so they're focusing on the throws. Most sport BJJ schools do very few takedowns, if at all. So you get this new generation coming up where you have judo guys that are getting mopped on the floor with a good BJJ practitioner, and then I see BJJ guys all the time. Some of the tournaments that we've been to just don't know what to do on their feet. They don't look comfortable on their feet. Well, if you're going to be a well-rounded grappler or proficient at self-defense, you need to know all levels. So that's what we're trying to do, is to get people that are at least comfortable on their feet and on the ground. For the kids, yeah, we've done some tournaments, and for them, they don't really see a difference, I don't think, between judo and jiu-jitsu. It's all to them. It's grappling. It's fun. They're building skills. Later they might specialize and focus on one or the other, especially if they're competing. But yeah, we just kind of integrate it all. And as you said before, that's the history of both arts. They started as well-rounded, complete martial arts, and then
they started as one art.
As this one art, right? And when they specialized, given the tournament rules, that filters down to the club level, and it filters down to what people think judo is or what jiu-jitsu is. Because you get so focused on those competition rules, you sort of ignore the bigger picture of what we're doing.
One of the things that I've come to realize is that our adult students don't really go to judo. They don't. We've been doing it for a year now for the adults, and probably the biggest class you've ever had is what, maybe 5?
Well, we average about 4 to 5, but
and this is a year later.
8 to 10, yeah.
A year later with a school that has, 60 adults. The next transition that we did was, we thought, well, kids, they don't hurt as much as adults when they fall.
Yeah.
Right. On the red mats, you yourself, a judo sensei, you were only able to fall, what do you say, about 25 times, and then you're done. Right?
Yeah,
like they say, the ground hits harder than a punch.
Yeah.
And you can only take so many, and then you'd say, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Right? So, which is, when we built this place, Sensei Dean was really the whole inspiration behind doing a suspended mat. We've got 4-inch foam blocks, we've got 2 layers of plywood, and then we have Fuji mats on top. Now, how many falls can you do in a class?
You can do as many as you want. If you fall safely, you know how to do it. It's not. I'm not going to say it doesn't, add up. The toll doesn't add up. At the previous place, we were about 1.5 inch thick mat on concrete.
1 5/8 Dolomer mats, which are premium mats, on concrete. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. So these are a lot more forgiving. But to your point, kids, they don't have a lot of body mass, and they're not falling from very high. And I don't know, their bones are a little more flexible or something. So they take falls repeatedly. I think I don't even have to prompt the kids, but when they walk in, they break out the crash mat, and they start doing flips and rolls, and they're just loving it, having fun. Adults, especially given our demographic, because it's slightly older, we don't have a lot of teens and 20-year-olds that are, throw caution to the wind. So, with the slightly older crowd, taking repeated falls is really hard. So we have to, be cognizant of that. You can't just do the sort of the crushing, pounding judo that a lot of schools do. We work as, first on the fundamentals of falling, how to fall safely, get comfortable there, and it's a harder learning curve. If you're 40 years old, 45 years old, and you're not used to taking even a dozen or 20 falls, it's hard.
Yeah.
But the kids, they don't seem to mind. They just bounce back. They have fun. So it's a little bit of a harder challenge for an older person to start out in judo versus jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu, it's a little bit more forgiving on the body because you're not taking the slams.
Yeah. And the way I see it is, the kids don't know any better, and the kids are going to do what we tell them. So if we tell them to do throws, they're going to do throws. With adults in class, if you tell them to, they will do it. But adults have the option of not showing up next time. So that's the way. So here's the way I look at it. And I've always taught. When I taught our kids program prior, I always taught them basic judo throws, just the osoto. But that's what we do, like hundreds of times. But just so they know how to fall, and they know how to do at least one basic throw, and then in addition to the body clinch with takedowns and all that kind of stuff, we go over. But I'd have the kids do it at a much higher proportion than the groundwork. We do self-defense, we do a lot of takedown drills, a lot of falling, because I know that once they're used to it as kids, when they become adults and transition to the adult program, we can start them standing up, no problem, because they've been doing it all these years as kids. They know no different. In fact, I don't think we ever have a situation where when we have the kids grappling, they ever start on their knees.
Yeah.
Never. They start on their feet. So at least in the jiu-jitsu class, what I'll do is I'll have the kids start on their feet, and I'll say, okay, I want you guys to go to takedown. Boom, they get up, and as soon as they get up, done. Let's do takedown. Maybe we'll do that 10, 15 times. And I'll say, okay, kids, now I want you to go from takedown to pin, and I'll choose a pin, whether it be a mount or a kesa or something. And they get down, do it. They hold it for 5 seconds, they get up. And then what I'll do is, okay, now for the older kids, I'll say, now I want you to not only pin, I want you to go for submission, armbar, choke, whatever. Those are for the middle school kids. But they always start on their feet. They don't ever ask me, oh, can we start on our knees? Or and if you go to one of the kids and you try to practice with them, you grab them, if you try to sit down, they're gonna kind of look at you like, oh, no, we always start standing up. Right? So we got to kind of condition them. This is going to be like a multi-year process, but our kids are going to be phenomenal when it comes to the whole complete game.
That's right. And if they are in a situation, say in real life, where they are taken down, let's say some bully tackles them, at least they know how to fall safely, how to tuck their chin, not catch themselves with their hands, and they can survive and get through that, right? So, if anything, just learning how to fall and being comfortable being thrown in any direction and knowing that you can safely fall can protect your life. And it doesn't even have to be a self-defense situation. You can, slip on the street or slip in your bathtub or something like that. So those break fall skills are essential. But you're right, it does take a little bit more with the adults. With the adults, we start really slow, taking very simple back break falls, forward break falls. Then we might do it in conjunction with a throw where they know what to expect. We'll do some, maybe not live sparring or randori, but we'll do some drills to where they know what's coming, right? So they're throwing with a little bit of motion. And after, maybe about 4 or 5 months, really depends on the student. Some a little bit longer, some a little bit less. Then we'll put them into a live sparring situation where they start on their feet. But I fully understand. It's hard, it's grueling. So it just takes a little bit more with the adults. Whereas with the kids, they don't know any different. Yeah. They take the falls and stand up and they're smiling and having a good time.
Yeah, and kids just naturally will grapple. I mean, you look at any kid in the playground. If you leave them to play, they're going to end up on the ground. They just do, right? What really planted the seed in my head about needing to expand our judo program. This is years ago, actually. I was watching a tournament. This is still when I was in California. Yuki Nakai brought a team because he does jiu-jitsu now. After getting smoked by RICKSON years and years ago, he realized, he was a judoka, and he realized, what, I got to learn this Brazilian jiu-jitsu stuff. So he ended up, I think he's a Gracie Baja black belt now, but he brought a team to the U.S. I don't know what tournament it was, maybe the Pan Ams or the Mundials, several years ago. And his guys would just destroy people because they knew the groundwork, but they also were very comfortable on their feet. And they were just throwing jiu-jitsu guys, black belts, throwing them. And after a few of those, then the jiu-jitsu guys look at that and they go, oh, crap. And they see Japanese guy, oh, that's Yuki Nakai's guys. I'm not letting them throw me. And they would just start pulling guard right away. Right, but it's a valuable skill to have, to be able to throw people.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're more and more, I think people are recognizing that the grappling arts they're all related. Whether it's judo, wrestling, sambo, catch wrestling, at the end of the day, it's grappling, and they share a lot of techniques. It's just the emphasis. Whereas a judo school will emphasize throws, there'll be some newaza, there'll be some groundwork, but about 70-75% of the training will be standing. Jiu-jitsu, is probably reversed, if not more. Maybe 90%, 95% on the ground. And more people are recognizing that, if I'm going to get good and be well-rounded, I need to cross-train. So, you have Travis Stevens, who's a Olympic-level judoka, who's now a black belt, I believe, under Renzo Gracie.
I think so. Yeah.
You got the Camarillo brothers doing their guerrilla jiu-jitsu. So people are starting to recognize that we need to cross-train. But in the past, if I'm a jiu-jitsu person and I want to learn takedowns, I have to find a judo school or bring a wrestler in. And judo guys would have to go elsewhere. So why not do it in one place where it's one membership, one set of fees.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive and commute all over the place to train. Just do it all together, and have people coming up from the start who are proficient at both.
Yeah. You know, for Kama Jiu-Jitsu, coming down from RICKSON school, we never were of the belief that you need to add in stand-up arts like a punching, like boxing, or I know Carson Gracie boxed, and it worked very well for him. But for us, it's always been, if you're going to manage distance, punching distance is different from traditional Gracie Jiu-Jitsu distance. And I've always thought for myself, I'd get confused myself. Am I in boxing distance, kicking distance? But if I am, then he can hit me too. And my assumption is always you can hit me better than I can hit you, so you'll knock me out, so I'll just stand away. But if I stand away, then what good is all that boxing, kickboxing I did, because I'm too far away to do it. But the judo is good because once you get into the clinch that we do, then understanding how to sweep the feet and how to do the hip throws and understanding all the mechanics of the throws only makes it better. So I just see it myself. I just see it just adding back in what used to be and should still be in there. But because of the competition things, the points and all that, the points encourage certain activities, and they discourage other activities, and what makes things legal and illegal does the same thing, right? Like with judo, the latest thing that I remember, other things, is that they can't do the takedowns that are judo takedowns, but they can't do them the ones that shoot for the legs first.
Yeah, as of 2010, they started to phase them out, and I think 2012 they completely banned leg grabs. So
it was the dumbest thing.
That's in judo kata. It's leg grabs are in the Gokyo no Waza, the basic curriculum. So competition-focused schools stopped doing techniques, saying, well, you can't do it in competition; it's illegal. And you have judoka now that can't even sprawl, or never learn how to sprawl because they never have to worry about someone taking out their legs. So if you're going to do the art, do the whole art. But to your point about them being the same, one of the things that I liked about Kama Jiu-Jitsu when I first walked in was people were doing takedowns. It was the punch, clinch, and you'd go in, you'd call it a hip throw, but it's a ogoshi, okay. Or you call it a toilet bowl, and I'll call it tanya toshi, right? Okay. So it was there. Yeah. But I think the difference was, we would do it in the self-defense or combatives component, and it would be more of drills, right? Yeah. So you get this clinch, you control the arm, you shoot your hip in, and you go ogoshi. Well, having those drills is better than not having those drills, but eventually you're going to have to be able to do it in a live sparring situation. Like you learn an arm bar with no resistance, you practice it and make sure you have it down, and then you can do it in a roll. Adults often don't want to stand up, but sometimes you have space constraints where you just can't stand everybody up. So you need to have an environment where you can do the live clinching, grappling, takedowns in a safe environment where no one's getting hurt, but actually put those drills into practice.
Yeah, and that's we'll do a lot of that during the summer, if any time. We don't do a lot of it during the gi season. And I think a lot of it just has to do with, like you had mentioned earlier, the age of our guys. By the time you're 40 years old, or you have a membership, where let's say your average member is between 35 and 45 years old, there's a lot of knee surgeries that's happened since then. And, I've had two myself. I don't necessarily guard my knees a lot, but but my knee that was not repaired, that might be the one that I guess I feel a little achy in there, and I might protect it because I don't want to have to end up in a surgery sooner. I know I'm going to end up there, but I just want to end up tomorrow rather than, I'd rather be 5 years from now rather than tomorrow. But you have other guys that might have 6-8 knee surgeries, and they're like, whoa. If anything gets near their knees, they're like, whoa, stop. And, it kind of ruins the experience for them if we end up doing something and it pops their knee.
Right.
Knee injuries happen most of the time when you're standing up.
Yeah, it's just different, when you're standing, because look, we're humans, so we spend most of our lives standing and walking, and that's kind of we're sort of our evolution has us be upright, right? Yeah. So people generate a lot more speed and a lot more power when they have their legs underneath them. You can move faster in all directions. Yeah. You can generate a lot more force on your leg, using your legs and your hips. On the ground, you're somewhat more limited. So I'm not to say that injuries don't happen on the ground, but it's usually like, popped rib, or you might tweak your elbow. Yeah, we get a lot of popped ribs. Like that. Yeah. But it's not catastrophic. Yeah. Whereas, judo, if you get caught with a thrown wrong, and it's happened to me, you'll dislocate your shoulder or pop out a knee.
Yeah.
So
one of our bigger guys got a dislocated shoulder just from doing a forward row drill with a partner.
Yeah.
Right, and that was a drill. I mean, we weren't even going. It wasn't a hard drill. It was just simple, and he landed on it, and his shoulder was like down to there.
Right. And we're cognizant of that again. So like in the judo program, it's not to create competitive world-class judoka.
Yeah.
I mean, at that age, you're
maybe
really
with
not.
the kids.
Maybe with the kids, yeah. But at that age, you're not. But you want at least people that are comfortable. So if you're on your feet, you're not panicked. You don't know what to do. And I can't tell you how many jiu-jitsu people I've encountered, just over the years of training, whether here or visiting elsewhere, having jiu-jitsu people come to our judo club in Denton, just completely lost on their feet. Just don't know what to do. Don't know where to put their feet. Don't know where their stance should be. Don't know how to take a fall. So at minimum, if people are older and maybe don't want to pursue a competition career or they just want to incorporate a little bit more stand-up into their overall jiu-jitsu game. It's just that familiarity. It's good enough. It's better than nothing.
Yeah. I mean, and then really, at the very minimum, a familiarity is a really good thing, because look at how the wrestlers were successful in the UFC early on. They didn't know submissions, but they had a little familiarity of what a submission artist would want. And because of their strength and their balance and their explosiveness, it was very hard to submit them. Very hard. They just need to have they just need to know what you're looking for, and once that happens, the wrestlers, their own innate skill can take over from there. But if you have an understanding of the stand-up, you know what the person's looking for to take you down. You may not be the best able to take somebody down, but at least you know what's coming. You can actually slow it down enough to where you might be able to figure something out and submit them. I don't know.
Yeah, and we've been to a couple of jiu-jitsu tournaments now, including the RICKSON Gracie Cup, and there's one a few of our students went to before that. Yeah. And you'd see guys, even high-level jiu-jitsu people, purple, brown belts, even some black belts, that just to get locked down and they don't know how to move, and they're stiff, and they look a little panicked.
But on the ground, they're relaxed.
On the ground, they're relaxed and fine, right? So, people who start stand-up for the first time and they've never done it before, they always tell me, man, this is tiring. I'm getting so tired.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the opposite. When I was doing newaza or groundwork, I'm like, man, I'm getting just gassed doing this.
Yeah.
Because it's out of your comfort zone. But once you get comfortable doing it, you know how to control the pace, and you know what to expect. You're less tense. Just that basic, being in your comfort zone is just valuable in and of itself, even if you're not a highly proficient, at all the takedowns. So just being used to it is important.
I think it's the adrenaline that actually gets it, right? Just the anticipation of what could happen that you're not familiar with, and that could be with anything in life. I bet, you think of all these special operations guys, when they're out in a field of battle, they're probably calm. Their heart's probably going 50 beats a minute. Yeah. Whereas me, I'm probably going 140. And I'd be panicking, right? But it's because they've just done it over and over and over. That's their training. With us, it's the groundwork, and I've always tried to have my guys do a lot more stand-up than what a typical school does, so that they're less nervous. But still, when Dean grabs on their gi, then I know they're going, oh shoot, right? And while Dean is kind of playing around and moving, but it's because he's done it for years and years and years.
You become habituated to anything.
Yeah.
You just get used to it, and then you asked about the kids doing competition. And part of it is that, right? I mean, I'm not. If some students want to be high-level, world-class competitors, that's great. But I think competition is good for all of our kids. Because of all of the positive benefits that come out of sports in general, right? It's just learning how to accept defeat, learning how to be gracious in victory, building the teamwork and whatever. But getting them to do competition, 2 or 3 a year, they just get kind of used to it, right? Where it's not a big deal. So if they do end up wanting to pursue a competitive judo or jiu-jitsu career, it's like just another day of training for them. Whereas I think for the adults who've never competed or are just starting to get into it, you get panicked. You're nervous getting into there. Whereas for the kids, if they're just doing it all the time, it's just like any other sport. Mm-hmm. I train and then I go to a competition, and I'm nervous, but it's nothing I haven't dealt with before. And that's going to translate in just positive life skills, learning how to deal with some of that pressure.
I like them doing judo tournaments, and that's something that a few of our kids really have gotten into, right? A lot of them have tried it. Whether they continue on, that's really up to them. But we actually do have a few of them that have done several tournaments and have done well, or to varying degrees. It is a brand new judo program. We only started here are November 2018. We only started in June.
Yeah.
We're entering our 6th month.
We just finished 6 months.
No, we just finished 5 months.
June, July, August, September, October.
Oh, okay, 6 months. Yeah.
Not November. But yeah, no. A lot of the kids have competed. Some of them have been to multiple tournaments. We've done surprisingly well. There was one tournament we did in Denton, where I think out of our 8 kids, we had 5 of them take first.
Yeah.
And your daughter's done really well.
Yeah, although we did that last tournament, the Dallas Open?
Dallas Invitational.
Dallas Invitational, which had a lot of national level competitors in it.
It was a lot harder.
Oh yeah, yeah. My daughter had a rough go. She got thrown in her first for an ippon right away, and then she threw in the second match, threw the girl, but it wasn't an ippon level throw.
She got a wazari.
Yeah, she got a wazari half point, but then got her back taken, and she actually got choked out by a judo girl.
I mean, which shows that they are, complementary, right?
Yeah.
If you can do a throw or defend a throw and then still prevail on the ground, it works. But we're not
But that girl that my daughter went up against was a national level competitor.
Yes.
And her father is an '84 Olympian for the U.S.
Yes. Yeah. So she's been doing judo.
And she was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
She was probably a good 4 inches taller than her. I don't know about the weight was probably the same.
Yeah.
She might have been older.
But she was probably doing judo since she could walk, right?
Yeah.
But so we've only been in operation for a few months, and we're not a judo school. We don't focus on competition judo. We only have a few classes a week, 2 days a week. Most of the kids, most of the time, and the adults are doing jiu-jitsu. But someone like your daughter, who didn't have a competitive judo background, was still going into tournaments and winning, several first places, a second place, and that's just with basic Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and a few takedowns under her belt. She's able to go into these judo tournaments against kids that's all they do, that's all they know, and still do well.
And she's handicapped because she couldn't choke anybody out. Right, 13-year-olds they start allowing the chokes. They don't allow arm bars at all or any kind of joint manipulation
until 17.
Which she knows all of those, and she's having to compete in judo under their rules, basically with her hands tied behind her back because she can't do the major part of what she knows. She can do the grappling, but when one match that girl went belly down on her and she just Logan would have choked her from behind, but could not. Instead, she tried to flip her over. I like it for her. He likes it for her. She doesn't like it so much. But it's good for her, 13 years, and it's good for the kids. My hope is that our judo team explodes. We have a huge judo team as well as a huge jiu-jitsu team, and we have a team that has overall knowledge in both judo and jiu-jitsu that we develop over time so that they are as proficient as, say, the Camarillo brothers have been in tournaments. I mean, when they're both half Gracie black belts, by the way, and they were both national level judo competitors as well. I don't know which brother was better, but they're both phenomenal.
They were both really good.
Oh my God! You watch their videos, Camarillo brothers, David and Dan. Yeah.
Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, gorilla like
UE.
GUE, not like not that kind of gorilla. And yeah, you watch their match; it's phenomenal. They'll take the guy down and they go straight to armbar. I mean, they call themselves arm hunters. I mean, they can take you down and take your arm inside of probably 15, 20 seconds. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that's something that's drilled in judo because time on the ground in judo is really limited. So your submission has to come quick.
Yeah,
and I think that in and of itself is a good skill because in a fight situation you don't want to be there longer than you need to be.
Yeah.
So making sure you can finish quickly is important. But no, to your point, I think having kids that can do it all, could walk into a jiu-jitsu tournament one weekend, 2 weeks later go to a judo tournament and do well in both. I think that's the ultimate goal.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
And we will have that within a few years. this is perhaps some good advice for some BJJ schools. You know, you can do wrestling as well. I mean, a lot of kids do wrestling, and I think judo kids do especially well in wrestling. When I was growing up, you know, I went to a school that had had the top wrestling program in the state of Hawaii, and at the time. And we had a couple of kids that came in from judo. They were 9th, 10th grade, and they just went straight into wrestling, and they were dominating.
Yeah.
Because they have the balance.
You know, I say if you can do high school wrestling, that's phenomenal, right? Because you'll just the amount of mat time that you get being a high school wrestler. You know, you're practicing every day, going to meets on the weekend. The conditioning they have, you know, they're hands down the best. But really, you know, for wrestlers after high school, and maybe if you do college wrestling, that's it. Like, you know, where do you do wrestling as an adult? Whereas judo and jiu-jitsu is something you can do for the rest of your life and continue to progress, continue to grow. A lot of wrestling takedowns have judo cognates, right? So double leg takedown is a morote gari, a fireman's carry is a kataguruma. So, you know, one is with the gi, one is without the gi. They're slightly different rules, but, you know, the more you can do of any of it, you know, I say go for it.
All right, well, hopefully this discussion has sparked a desire to discuss it on your end. Easiest way to do it in the comments below. Sensei Dean does keep up with his threads, and he will jump in and respond. Hopefully we don't get all the judo haters come out.
If you're a judo guy, and you know, I know a lot of judo guys, you know, like to comment on your posts about which is better, this and that. You know, just go try it. You know, keep an open mind. Go try it. BJJ guys thinking about doing judo, you know, just go do it. Check it out. You know, especially if you have a good school in your area, you'll be blown away by the level of skill. And rather than, you know, trying to argue who's better, just try them both and see what you gravitate toward.
Because of course, Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ is just simply Kosen Judo, right? And the Gracie's ripped it off from Kosen Judo.
Yeah, good luck trying to find a Kosen Judo place in the United States. You know, 99% of schools out there are doing IJF Judo, and that's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
Your school, some of you that comment, you might have the one school in the nation that has really good newaza, but for a lot of folks, cross training is the way to go.
Yeah, and you know, it is really the same art, and that's all we're just trying to do, is just bring it all back together. Don't look at it as like a competitive thing. You know, I get, you know, old judo masters at tournaments, you know, hand me their cards that says they're 7th Dan or 8th Dan or whatever, to tell me that we don't do the real jiu-jitsu at a judo tournament. What do I care?
Yeah, I mean, the style versus style stuff is been going on for generations, right? Is this style better? Is that style better? And, you know, at the end of the day, just go train it all and see what you gravitate towards, see what you have most fun doing, and stick with that. I
mean, if you're a jiu-jitsu guy, like Sensei Dean said, consider doing judo. And if you're a judo guy, consider doing jiu-jitsu. You'll be quickly exposed to what you don't know. Quickly. And the more you know, the better. Right? And it's not really doing something completely different. It's doing something that should be in your art that is now missing. You're just putting the pieces back in. Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell on there so you get future updates. And thanks for everything. Take care. Happy training. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Good job.